The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
Right before the match, DDP takes his shirt off, wipes his sweat off on it, and throws it into the crowd like a rock star. Only it's wrestling fans, so you see a bunch of drunk, sweaty dudes claw at each other over this man's t-shirt instead of, screaming girls.
Yes, Hoobie then at the end kicks out, and they still counted it. And then everybody was standing around like they were confused. Hoobie was upset. I don't know if he was upset because he kicked out or because he lost.
And I gotta say, this might be the best intergender match I've ever seen. This reminded me of any old back alley fight with just two chicks involved.
They're holding his legs down, and he's still convulsing. Leg drops and elbows, and there was no help for him. Sting was literally just out there a second ago. Now he's not anymore.
Well, we move on to our Wrestling Rewind.
The retro review that we missed last week.
We did. We were making up for it by doing Super Brawl 7 for WCW. And this one starts off in Alcatraz. And the camera pans across a row of empty cells until we see a man standing alone. And it's Roddy Piper. And his shirt's all dirty and torn to shit. And then Piper just opens the cell door and stumbles out of it. And then a guard grabs Piper. But Piper defiantly tells the guy that he knows his own damn way. And then we see Piper stumble outside. Then he faces the camera. And he says, "It's time to pay the piper now. I didn't spend 7 days in hell for nothing. And Hogan, you're an extinction. You're an endangered species. Get that thing out of my face." And Piper's standing on a boat now. He says he's coming and he's bringing Alcatraz to you. Then we go to San Francisco, California.
So at this point, Alcatraz is shut down, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, why is there no one there? Well, obviously, but also, why is there no one there?
Yeah, Alcatraz was abandoned quite some time ago. Basically, what happened was Hogan pissed off Piper so much that he had to lock himself in Alcatraz before the match.
Yep. I mean, he was ready.
He was.
It was just weird that he was walking through it and it was completely empty. I wonder what that would have been like to just be like there. When I used to work in the office and I was the last one to leave, it was always like spooky just walking through like an office because it's so big and you're like, something's just going to jump out on me.
Yeah, not to mention you're on an island, so if anything, you'd hear the waves crashing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dusty, Tony, and Bobby are on commentary. They fill us in that Piper's been locked away in Alcatraz for 7 days and 7 nights, and shit's going to hit the fan when he gets to the building. And Dusty says Piper needs to put his emotions aside and focus on his last shot at the World Heavyweight title. And Heenan says Piper has escaped from Alcatraz and is headed directly for Hollywood. And to open up the show, we have Master 6 versus Dean Malenko for the Cruiserweight title. And apparently after losing the U.S. title, Master 6 stole from Eddie Guerrero. He set his sights on stealing the Cruiserweight title, which he did from Dean Malenko when he was wrestling Mike Enos. And then Master 6 also tried to steal the U.S. title again from Eddie during a match with Malenko, but Eddie was able to get it back before Master 6 Ninja vanished into the crowd. So naturally, 6 gets a title shot instead of, being fired for stealing.
Of course.
And match gets underway, and Malenko, the way he came out was great. He walks out, just casual, and then he just slightly turns his head, and he notices that 6 is in the ring. And then his focus is on nothing but the ring. And he was kind of just casually walking, but then, again, when he sees 6, that's when he starts walking with purpose. It's fucking great. Just the little things. He's so fucking underrated. I popped how this motherfucker came out. How he walked to the ring.
Yeah, he's just so ice cold.
Malenko gets the ring and then immediately tears a shiny new asshole for Master 6 and lays him out with a kick. Then Malenko goes for a cover but pulls him up, letting him know that this isn't going to be over quickly. He later did the same thing with a brainbuster, and it looked like Malenko was pissed. And later they fight to the outside. Malenko stops to get his belt back and then holds it up, which was really out of character. But he stops beating the shit out of him just to turn around, grabs his belt, holds it up.
To signify that he's gotten it back.
I guess. So Master 6 is able to get the advantage with the use of his karate. And he also hits a Bronco Buster. And then Malenko goes for a top rope belly to back suplex, but Master Six counters with a half-ass crossbody. And then Master Six makes like he's going to take the belt and run away. But then Eddie Guerrero comes out. He grabs the belt from the outside the ring. And Malenko grabs Master Six from inside the ring. So Eddie and Six are pulling the Cruiserweight title. Eddie's standing on the outside of the ring. Six is standing on the inside of the ring. Malenko comes up from behind Six and grabs him. So then Eddie ends up letting go of the belt. So, of course, the belt goes right into Malenko's face, and Six gets the win. And Eddie's like, oh, what did I do? And I noticed that Heenan kept calling Eddie La Bamba.
I guess that's an upgrade from Jumping Bean. But I know you make fun of Six and his karate. But I thought this was a pretty good match.
It was all right.
It's better than the 1-2-3 Kid. But as you see, pretty much throughout his whole wrestling career, he's stayed with that whole karate thing.
I don't remember him doing the karate with 1-2-3 Kid.
Well, I mean, he didn't do like the arm stuff, but he would do like the jumping back kicks and stuff.
The 1-2-3 Kid?
Yeah. He just didn't do like the crouching. He didn't do all that, but yeah, okay. He would do his jumping kicks. I remember him doing his little spinning jumping back kick thing.
I just remember him for the moonsault.
Oh, yeah, there's that too. But yeah, good match. I don't know what Eddie was thinking coming out there.
He was trying to help Dean because he knows what it's like to get his title stolen.
Well, yeah, costed him the title now.
Sure did. One good thing we can have from this is at least we're going to get some great matches between Dean and Eddie. Hopefully we get to see them on a pay-per-view. So Hogan pimps the WCW hotline, and I guess they're not teasing former WWF wrestlers jumping to WCW now. Instead, it's WCW wrestlers jumping ship to NWO. I don't know how to take that. They're so big now that they don't need to use the WWF names, or there's not a WWF name that would want to be associated.
I don't know, but they did always have a good little teaser for that hotline. Like, there was always something. Oh, we got an ex WWF superstar jumping ship to WCW. Or, like this time, there was a WCW superstar having breakfast with the NWO. Does that mean they're jumping ship? We got the scoop. All you got to do is call that hotline.
WWF superstar was caught holding hands with an NWO guy. So after that, Oakland interviews DDP, and Page is facing someone from the NWO who he doesn't know. Then DDP uses process of elimination to determine it's going to be Buff Bagwell. And Oakland gets a special report right then and there confirming DDP is right. Then DDP says to Buff that just when he thinks he has DDP's number, bang! Diamond cutter. And that was that. So we move on to Conan and La Parka and Viana 4 versus Ciclope, Super Calo, and Juventud Guerrera. And this is a 6-man tag. So it was like 5 luchadors in Conan. And then Ciclope looked like a movie monster from like a 1940s movie.
Was that the guy with the low-budget mask?
Yeah.
And we can say that because we're luchas too.
I don't know. He looked like a Godzilla creature.
Yeah, that mask. I don't know. It looked like it was made out of a pillowcase.
It would just seem like that all that shit would just be so distracting to wrestle in. And his highlight of the night was when he tried to hit Viano 4 with a moonsault and just completely missed him. Thankfully, Viano didn't sell it at all. So at one point, Dusty wants to know what the Australians will think of this match. Don't know why. And it turns out Viano 4's dad was an extra in a movie. And he and his brother used their father's character's name from that movie as their wrestler character. So I don't know if that's sad or something to be proud of, but that's what they did. And La Parka wasn't wearing his little skeleton deal, which was kind of weird. And then this match was held in such high regard that they did a split screen to show Stevie Ray talking to some virgin about WCW.com. Couldn't have done that during the WCW hotline segment.
Got to show that extra stuff.
And then he then suggested that they get Piper to do that and share his thoughts of the WCW.com part. And Dusty says he's got more important things to worry about than the internet. He's been in Alcatraz for 7 days. He stinks. He's ready. And it looks like Juventud Guerrera completely missed a 450 splash on Viana 4. So I don't know what it is with him and having his opponents just completely whiff on shit, but seems to have a special talent. And then, yeah, Conan looked like the kid that forgot his costume at home. And they did a whole bunch of useless group submissions. It looked like routines instead of trying to win a fight, like a dance routine. That star thing and then the surfboard bullshit.
Yeah, I just said it's probably the Lucha Libre style or something. I don't know.
Oh, clearly, yeah.
They kind of do the same thing in AEW now. So,
Well, Conan won with a sit-down power bomb. Hoovy actually kicked out, but it was counted as a pin anyway. So I'm not sure what that was all about. And this all seemed more like a dance routine than a wrestling match.
I thought it was fun for what it was. It was high octane. Everybody's, flipping and flopping all over the place. At one point, Heenan was like, "I'll give you $1,000. You tell me who's legal right now." I mean, it was good for what it was. Yes, Hoovy 2 then at the end kicks out, and they still counted it. And then everybody was standing around like they were confused. Hoovy was upset. I don't know if he was upset because he kicked out or because he lost. And yeah, they were just standing around. No one was celebrating. The ref had to tell them that they won. Yeah, it was just
Really
a weird ending. Now, on the replay, it did look like his head bounced off the ring. So maybe that had something to do with it. But a win's a win. Like, what are you doing kicking out of
Thursday?
Yeah, what are you doing kicking out of Conan's finisher? That was his finisher at the time. Do you understand?
Apparently not. They did some nice crowd shots of the fans. I did appreciate all the virgins with their Sting face paint on. They kept showing this one particular fan that was the size of 4 fans put together and had gigantic man titties. Kind of reminded me of this character Angus from this old movie from the 90s. They kept cutting to him, making stupid faces. And he kept getting bigger, so I can only assume that he was just eating people around him. Like a Venus flytrap.
Or he was just eating.
That too. So we move on to Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Prince Iaukea. And this is for the WCW TV title. I think this is the first time the TV title's been on a pay-per-view.
I believe so. And they even called out that it was rare for it to be defended. It's a TV title, so usually it's
it does make sense. TV. Yeah, you're right. Mysterio did a forward roll directly onto Iaukea at the beginning of the match, and that just completely popped me. I was like, oh shit, I can't see how that would hurt in every way.
Yeah.
And then Steven Regal came out because he's the former TV champ. Regal ends up fucking Mysterio. Iaukea gets the pin. Iaukea is not happy about it. And Regal wants Iaukea to shake his hand for helping him retain the belt. Iaukea tries to give the belt to Rey and then raise his hand. Rey doesn't want any of that. He wants to win the belt the right way. So he gives it back and raises Iaukea hand. And the commentary team were pissed that nobody wants this fucking title. And then Rey yells at Regal from the ring. And then Regal gets on his hands and knees and says, "Come on, little man." And yeah.
Wasn't this Jimmy Snuka's son? I thought I remember that being his son. He didn't have quite the long run in WCW.
He had a neat look, though. He didn't look like a superstar or anything, but he was unique enough that he stood out.
Yeah, I just remember they were trying to push him as like this blue chipper, and then, yeah, just kind of dropped him. But he had so much honor trying to just hand over the title. No, he cheated, so you get the title now.
No, I don't believe he's related to Snuka.
Maybe I thought he was. Wrestling barefoot. That's what it was.
He was actually trained by Dean Malenko.
Good for him.
So Mean Gene interviews the Giant, and he takes the time to pimp the hotline again, and he says the exact same shit he said earlier. And Okerlund says to the Giant, "Boy, the outsider's really fucking with your head." The Giant says he's ridden with them and knows how bad they drive. He also knows what they're all about. And they want to get the Giant pissed, so he fucks up the match. And Giant says, "Y'all ain't getting to me. And I guarantee I'm walking away with the tag belts." And then they reveal that Luger is not medically cleared by Eric Bischoff, despite being medically cleared by the medical staff. So it's a handicap match for the Giant. So you have Buff Bagwell versus DDP. Right before the match, DDP takes his shirt off, wipes his sweat off on it, and throws it into the crowd like a rock star. only it's wrestling fans. So you see a bunch of drunk, sweaty dudes claw at each other over this man's t-shirt instead of, screaming girls. Quite the juxtaposition. Bagwell stole DDP's trick where he tries to punk the referee out, but he ends up getting bitched. And then Bagwell hits DDP with a perfect flex, but pulls up and tells the referee to count to 10. So Bagwell gets hit with a diamond cutter, but the rest of the NWO come out before DDP can make the cover, I guess. And DDP escapes through the crowd, blowing kisses. And Nick Patrick came out with a sleeveless zebra striped shirt, and then he yells at the WCW ref. DDP's announced the winner via DQ.
I was excited for this match. Unfortunately, it didn't live up to the excitement. Mainly because, Bagwell, he hit the perfect plex, and then, for no reason whatsoever, he just gets up and starts posing, and is like, count him out!
Yeah.
It's like, okay, buddy. I don't know. It just was a miss for me, ultimately, which is disappointing.
Yeah, it was just a match. Well, after that, they announced the winner of some PlayStation thing. And it turns out it's Keith Phillips of Ogden, Utah. And Keith said, yeah! Woo! And Chris Jericho and Eddie Guerrero had their match for the WCW US title. And Heenan called Guerrero Eddie Graham. I guess that's an improvement over La Bamba. And I like how this one was a little slower. Like we saw a 6-man lucha match and then Iakea versus Mysterio. So Jericho and Eddie decided to give us something different. One of the highlights is Jericho did a spinning Argentinian backbreaker and it blew Tony's mind. He's like, it's so many moves at once. And then they built to the high-risk moves. And then Eddie ended up winning out of nowhere with a sunset flip. And I like how Chris hit Eddie with everything he had, but he couldn't put him away and got cut for not doing so. And Eddie drapes his belt over Chris's shoulder and raises his arm after the match. So everybody's just giving their title away.
Well, this was a little bit of a vintage Jericho. It was the start of some of his Jericho-isms, I would say. It's good to see that getting started. Yeah, it was definitely a good match.
And he was showing some personality. He didn't get it done, so he was frustrated. I don't know. They gave him something to work with.
Yeah. You can see that Jericho's starting to come up some more. And that Guerrero was already up higher.
Oh, they were hiring him for a while.
Yeah.
Well, the Faces of Fear, Public Enemy, and Harlem Heat had a triangle match. And they pulled out all the creative juices that they had in WCW to come up with that match name. And this should have been like a 4 corners match, but I guess the Steiners are injured, so they can't do that. And it was also supposed to be for the number 1 contendership, but since the Steiners are out, there's 0 stakes for this match. Public Enemy came out with a table, because of course that's all they have. Harlem Heat have their cool fire entrance finally, so it was probably the highlight of the match for me. And Rocco Rock is bald now, looks like a goof. And for some reason, on this night, somebody said, hey, let's have Public Enemy beat Harlem Heat in the Faces of Fear. And not one person said, no, that's not a good idea.
Yeah. Ultimately, it was a nothing match.
They told you it was a nothing match before it. Like, this was going to be for something, but since another team can't compete, well, this is really just a waste of time for everybody involved.
Yeah. To my surprise, yes, Public Enemy won this match. Even though it was a nothing match, I was for sure Harlem Heat was going to win, but they did not. I guess if you want to have something positive out of it, it was impressive that the Barbarian caught one of the Public Enemy guys out of midair. So that was impressive. Although he was like really holding him by his groin, if you saw.
That's the only way you can properly body slam somebody.
Yeah. There was that impressive feat of strength, but ultimately a nothing match.
We had Steve McMichael versus Jeff Jarrett. And if Jarrett wins tonight, he officially becomes a horseman. Didn't Arn DDT him last pay-per-view?
Yes.
Okay, so wouldn't that be kind of an indication that he's not welcome with the horseman?
You would think.
Deborah still wants to fuck Jarrett. and McMichael. So she wants to be spit roasted. And it's hard to take Deborah seriously with so much clothing on.
After we saw her in
Yeah.
WWF.
The Vinces ruined her for me. And Jarrett got Mongo in an abdominal stretch and used the ropes for leverage, but Deborah smacked his hand with the attaché Halliburton briefcase. And then later, Deborah towels off Jarrett, and Mongo snatches the towel and uses it to strangle Jarrett with. And Jarrett climbs the top rope and hits Mongo with a crossbody drop. And just before Jarrett landed on Mongo, he went, "Ah!" So that was funny. And Mongo kicks out, sends Jarrett into the ref, and he tells Deborah to hand him the Halliburton attaché case. And Deborah tells Mongo to fuck off. Mongo grabs Deborah by the arm, then she just tosses the briefcase behind her and just so happened to land in Jarrett's arms. Jarrett hits Mongo with the Halliburton attaché case and gets the 1, 2, 3. And Deborah winks at the camera next to her unconscious husband.
Yeah, she played it off like it was an accident, but then at the same time she was, I don't know, consoling her husband. So I guess Double J is now part of the Horsemen. And does that mean McMichael's out?
I don't know what the fuck it means. Guess we'll have to wait till tomorrow when they change it again. Oh yeah, Deborah also resuscitated Mongo with an exasperated look on her face. Like, get up! I know I'm the reason why you're lying there, but come on, you silly goose. It's just a metal briefcase. All right. So we have Kevin Sullivan with Jacqueline and Jimmy Hart versus Chris Benoit with Woman.
Oh boy.
This is a San Francisco death match. And Sullivan and Jacqueline apparently form a formidable duo, and they also steal MC Hammer lines, such as Too Legit to Quit. A Woman is going to be strapped to Jacqueline during the entire match. And as soon as Jacqueline and Woman are officially strapped to each other, all hell breaks loose. Woman and Jacqueline fight to the floor. And then they take turns delivering devastating blows with the strap to their meaty parts of their thighs and their asses. The Woman crotches Sullivan in the dick with the strap. And then Woman and Jacqueline both break free from the strap, like really early on. So Jacqueline beats the fuck out of Benoit with the strap while his back is turned. Sullivan uses it to strangle Benoit. Sullivan throws Benoit to the outside with the strap still attached to his neck and then hangs him. Jacqueline kicks Benoit square in the dick. How awful. And then Woman does something to Sullivan, and now both girls are pummeling their fallen man. And Woman and Jacqueline clothesline the men with the strap. Then they start smacking the shit out of each other's legs again. Sullivan and Benoit fight through the crowd. The girls are still smacking their legs. And then Sullivan and Benoit go through the concession area, and Benoit gets slammed on something. And Benoit hits Sullivan with a couple empty trash cans, and then they fight their way back to the ring. Sullivan hits a bitch-ass foot stomp, and Woman starts hitting him with the strap to break up the pin. The finishing move is so effective that Benoit immediately gets up and hits Sullivan with a pile driver. And then Benoit goes outside, grabs a table. He sets up the table, throws Sullivan on it, and gets on the top rope. Jacqueline tries to thwart Benoit, but Nancy holds on to her, so she's too short. So she has enough slack to do the only things she can think of to do, and that's to dive on top of Sullivan. And Benoit does not give two fucks at all, and he dives onto Jacqueline and Sullivan. The table happens to survive. These are the strongest tables ever. And Jacqueline sacrificed his dick because Benoit just rolls Sullivan over and covers him under the table, 1, 2, 3. And I gotta say, this might be the best intergender match I've ever seen. This reminded me of any old back alley fight with just two chicks involved.
I would say maybe the women were a little too much at times. I remember there was even a point where they were fighting outside of the ring, this being Benoit and Sullivan. And then the ref was with the women. Shivani on commentary is like, oh, just to remind you, if Benoit or Sullivan gets the pin, that's the only way this match ends. And I don't know why the ref decided to stay with the women. I would say outside of that, like based off of, what seems to be happening here, this was booked pretty much perfectly. It wasn't supposed to be like a pretty match. It was supposed to be a clusterfuck.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a fight.
Yeah, because you got one guy stealing another guy's wife or girlfriend. I don't know what she was at the time, but
And you got the 2 pissed off wives involved.
yeah, it should be it should be very trailer parkish, and that's what it was.
Yeah, and Benoit and Sullivan were fighting, and then Jackie and a woman would just dive on backs or just nut shot them. It was great.
Yeah. Now the one thing I thought was going to happen, maybe I was kind of disappointed, was at the end when they were getting into the ambulance. I thought there was going to be some more shenanigans and them fighting in the ambulance or something.
No, they just get stretched out. Paul Orndorff and Tony the Tiger were there. Orndorff yelled at referees to tell him to go somewhere. And Red Rooster was there. The woman and Jimmy Hart held hands in sympathy.
For what it was, I thought it was a pretty darn entertaining match.
I thought it was the match of the night.
I was almost there, yeah.
Oh, without a doubt, match of the night. As soon as Woman and Jackie touched, it was awesome.
And them just literally trading shots with the strap.
Well, after that, we have the Outsiders versus the Giant. And it's for the WCW tag titles. And Giant comes out, no music. It was awesome. And Hall and Nash spent the first part of the match trying to piss the Giant off. They mocked his choke slam gesture. Hall slapped and spit on him. And Giant drop kicked Nash out of the ring, which was cool looking. It's nice to see him finally hit a drop kick. And Master 6 hit the Giant in the back of the head with the Cruiserweight belt from the top rope. And Master 6 completely missed a spin kick, unlike the Yano 4. Giant saw it.
Yep.
Then Master 6 tries to nail Giant from the top rope again, and Giant catches Master 6 and throws him right at Nash. And Hall ends up getting Master 6's belt and nails Giant with it. And Nash powerbombs the Giant, and it was awesome.
It was amazing to see, yeah.
Yeah. When we see it again, it's going to be a little different. Luger comes out in street clothes to save the day. Giant tags in Luger, who fucks up Nash and Hall and Master 6. And Luger gets Nash in the torture rack for the win. And then Giant chokeslams Hall and pins him, so Bischoff can't bitch about the illegitimate guy winning the match.
Well, actually, he can, because the match started without Luger, so it was technically then a disqualification when Luger got in the ring.
Which is basically what Bischoff says, I think, on the next Nitro, because they get stripped.
Golly, why does that keep happening to them? Like, why do they keep losing if they're just going to get the title back?
Why even have the match?
We're seeing them lose every pay-per-view, and then they're just getting it back.
Yeah.
And is that then counting as one continuous reign, or is it not?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, technically, it would be one continuous reign.
Yeah. Well, good for them. Luger, though, he did have a big pop when he came out, so that was nice to see that he's still over.
Oh, yeah. He's one of the heroes. He always will be. Well, I don't know. Once he gets with Elizabeth, he might go off the rails.
Well, he did have the nice torture rack, too, on Nash. It seems like he got him up there pretty easily.
He had one of the better finishing moves.
Yeah.
Well, finally, we get to Hollywood Hulk Hogan, who is with $1 Million Man and Virgil, versus Roddy Piper. It's for the World Heavyweight title. And no Micro Buffer. So we just get some schlub saying their names. Piper, he comes out all battered to hell still. Hogan goes to leave the match early, and Piper catches him. Someone yells, "Piper's going for his eyes!" And Piper gouges and bites and dick kicks. It's actually a pretty good match. Hogan was a great chicken shit heel as always. Some NWO members came out, and Piper kicked all of their asses. Sting and Savage came out too. Savage heads to the ring, but Sting stops him. And Sting just turns and leaves. So Macho Man goes to the ring anyway. And Piper gets Hogan with a sleeper hold, the same move he used to beat him last time. And Savage just stares, stone-faced. And eventually the referee checks on Hogan and starts raising his arm. Raises his arm once, falls down. Raises his arm twice, falls down. Raises his arm a third time, and falls down. And the ref rings the bell. Piper is finally our world champion. And all is right with WCW. That shit they pulled last pay-per-view, water under the bridge. We finally got our hero. And as Piper celebrating, Savage, for some reason, just pulls Hogan towards him. It looked like he was trying to drag him out of the ring and just stopped. And then he starts fumbling with his pocket. It's so high, like he almost dislocates his shoulder to get to it. Savage ends up handing Hogan a pair of brass knuckles. Meanwhile, Mark Curtis is freaking out and trying to throw Piper's hand down. And then the bell rings again. And then Hogan uppercuts Piper and pins him 1, 2, 3. At this point, I wrote, "What?" And Shivani says, because Hogan was under the ropes, the referee had to restart the match because Piper would have had to break the hold. So remember, Savage pulled Hogan under the fucking ropes after it was all said and done. And the referee saw that and restarted the match because he thought Hogan was under the ropes the entire time. However, the referee was literally facing Hogan with his ass against the ropes when he was doing the arm raises thing.
It was a genius plan.
It was not a genius plan. It was stupid.
It was a genius plan. I got clickbaited though because I thought Piper had actually won.
He did win. And
then
then
Hogan-
this bullshit.
It's like, oh, I didn't notice that Hogan's legs was under the ropes. I missed it too.
Then they decided to bury Piper and the referee and fucking everybody involved. Stupid. Savage ends up decking Piper after the match, and Piper starts convulsing.
And this was the best part of it all.
I guess. Savage spray paints a convulsing Piper, and Hogan tosses the ref out of the ring, and then he and Savage start slamming Piper's head against the mat repeatedly. And Hogan lays over Piper's legs so Savage can deliver his elbow drop.
Still convulsing, by the way.
Still convulsing. Hogan hits his leg drop twice while Savage lays over Piper's legs. And Hogan and Savage start slamming Piper's head into the mat again. And Savage hits another elbow drop. And Piper still convulsing. And Hogan and Savage say that this is all dedicated to the outsiders and too sweet into the camera. And Hogan throws the referee out of the ring again and lays on Piper's legs so Savage can deliver yet another elbow drop.
And he's still convulsing.
And Hogan plays air guitar with the belt. And I think Savage was just happy that it wasn't him this time.
And that's how we go off the air.
That's how we went off the air with Piper, the rightful champion, convulsing instead.
Which was just damn funny. They're holding his legs down and he's still convulsing. Leg drops and elbows. And there was no help for him. Sting was literally just out there a second ago. Now he's not anymore.
He brought Savage to the ring. It's disappointing. That was worse than the first one.
Yeah. And Macho Man has joined the ranks of the NWO. So my question is, was he the one having breakfast with the NWO that they alluded to earlier from the hotline?
I would think so.
Yeah, there you go. And then it makes sense then from last pay-per-view, like Eric Bischoff kept talking about Piper and Savage.
Yeah, I like how they plant the little nuggets, and yeah, there's a thread of storyline throughout the entire pay-per-view. But yeah, that was Super Brawl 7. Well, I don't know what's next. Well, it's a good WCW pay-per-view, I'm sure. But before all that, we have WrestleMania 16. This one actually might be a hard one to get through. Because this is the one where we had all four McMahons in the corner at the main event.
Oh, okay.
We do get Edge and Christian versus the Dudley Boys and the Hardys.
The ladder match?
I believe so, yeah.
So that's good.
Yep. And then Benoit, Jericho, and Angle have a triple threat match.
That should be good.
It's going to be good on paper.
I mean, Angle in a match, I don't know how that could be bad.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen him have a bad match. Maybe
especially at WrestleMania.
Maybe his later stuff. Uncensored's next for WCW.
Well, we're back to uncensored. Seems like we just watched one.
Yeah. Dennis Rodman makes an appearance.
Oh, Rodzilla?
Rodzilla.
Okay. Now we're getting to peak NWO before, it gets crazy.
But that is all I got.
Well, that's our retro review. But yeah, if you agree with anything, let us know in the comments. If you disagree with anything, let us know in the comments. Next week, we have WrestleMania. We have the Backlash review. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Backlash, WrestleMania Retro. We got Raw. We got SmackDown. We got like buttons. We got subscribe buttons. We got Harry. We got Tyson. And we got Top Guys out.